Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about flight numbers. I personally hate them. I think that they're overall sort of a crappy indication of how a disc is going to fly, and a big reason for that is we all know that while the flight numbers from a manufacturer might say one thing, that the way that the disc actually ends up flying can be something completely different. And there's a lot of factors that play into that. Today, we're going to dive into flight numbers a little bit, and we're going to see if we can't figure out the exact flight numbers for a disc. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use the TechDisc. So I went out to the field and made a bunch of throws with my TechDisc. I'm going to show you one of those throws first, so we'll take a look at it. And there you can see how it flies. It's a big flexing forehand. And it ends a pretty good distance out there. So we recorded the data for that throw. We have it here. That throw itself ended up going 373 feet. I had loaded the flight information for the TechDisc based off of the way I think my TechDisc flies, which is a 12.5 -2 at 175 grams. TechDisc came back and said that that disc would have went 338 feet. So we see a considerable difference between the 373 and the 338. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our throw inside of TechDisc, and we're going to take a look and see how the flight numbers would have to change to get the disc to fly in that way. All right, so here we go. We have the throw loaded up in TechDisc. There you see the 338 that we talked about it going. There we see the flight numbers that I was talking about, 12, 5, -2, and 175. So we know that we need to get this disc to go further. I'm going to say that the destroyer ends up going a little bit faster. Now, some people might not know this, but you can actually do decimals here. So I'm going to go ahead and type it in and just say, let's put 12.2. Let's leave the glide alone for a little bit, and based off of how some of the other ones are reading, I'm going to turn this turn up a little bit more so that it'll get a little bit more left out of it and probably get a little bit more distance. So let's see if this ends up going further than the 338. And it looks like it's going to. That one got out to 350. So we're trying to get out to 373. I am going to up the glide to 5.5, and let's see what happens with that. And that's making it dump out a lot harder. We got close, but I think it has a little bit too much left turn there compared to the throw that we saw in real life. So I'm going to dial that back. I'm going to try it at 5.3. And there we go. That's a little bit more in the middle. And we're at 377. So we got it to go a little bit further. Let's go down just a little bit more because I still think it's going over more than it did on the real throw. I think it's getting a little bit too much turn out of it. So there we go. We got that at 370. I like that flight. I think that looks an awful lot like it did in the video that we saw. So now I'm going to down the weight to 173 and reducing that weight. My hope is I just get a few more feet out of it. Again, trying to get that 373. 377, so let's move it back up to 174. And we'll try that out. 374. So I'm going to say that that is pretty darn close at the end of the day. We're going to jump over into our spreadsheet and now record those numbers. So to get this throw, it was 12.2. It was a glide of 5.2. A turn of -2.1. and a weight of 174. So you can see I've already done some of my other throws from that day here. Pre-doing this, you see that this was the average of the TechDisc throws at 306 and the real throws at 335. So that's a difference of 8%. And if you remember from some of my other videos talking about how accurate the TechDisc was, I was saying that it's taking distance away from my forehand, which we see here. We'll see if after we put all of these numbers in and do this, if we don't get this number, the realisticness of TechDisc down to a normal spot. So what I'm going to do is off camera, I'm going to go ahead and do this for each one of my throws. Once we have that, we'll take and have an average of what the flight numbers actually are for my TechDisc. So the best to our ability, knowledge of what that disc actually is flying like. And then we're going to go back, rerun every single one of my throws, compare the new distance to the old distance, and see how accurate we are. So I'll go ahead and get started on that, and then I'll come back and show you guys what I've found. All right, so here we go. That was a lot of work to get all of these numbers crunched, but we've figured out what the flight numbers would have been for each one of these throws to get the TechDisc to go to the real distance that we were looking at. And then we have what our actual flight numbers for that disc are based off of the average of each one of those. So the speed ends up being 12.2, so a little bit faster, a glide of 5.4, and a turn of 2.2, negative 2.2. The weight, I actually went ahead and figured something out while I was in the middle of this, and I didn't want to go back and redo all the data, but I ended up weighing my TechDisc, which I had never done before. It came in at 175.4, so after I had found that out, the rest of the weights I left at 175 and stopped playing with that factor, since it's something that we actually know and we don't have to try and guess. So let's go ahead and put these in on one of our throws. I actually have this one that went 338 with our old flight numbers and 373 in real life. I have that throw loaded up. I'm going to go ahead and put in these flight numbers, so 12.2. And the glide was 5.4, negative 2.2. And we already know that the weight is 175. So based on those flight numbers, let's go ahead and give this a throw. So it's definitely bending out way further left. It's coming out of it eventually. And that ended up going 346 feet. But so it did go further. But if we went back and looked at that actual throw, so let's go down here. Let's record that. So that went 346 feet. So, and that was throw 14. So if we go ahead and load up that actual throw and watch it. So this is throw 14. So it definitely starts off far right. It goes left. But it doesn't go nearly as far left as what we had in the simulator there. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm actually going to go back through all of those throws, get our new distance, and then at the end of it, we'll see if now our accuracy is closer to real life or further away. So give me a second and I'll come back with that information. All right, so we're back. We plugged all of those throws back into the TechDisc with our new flight numbers of 12.2, 5.4, negative 2.2 at 175 grams. And it's gotten us new distances for each one of our 14 throws. Let's go ahead and grab the average of that. If I could type. $319.2, so we're definitely closer to the 335 that was real life than the original 306. Let's see what has happened to the percent. How much has that ended up changing? Just bear with me a second here. that a percent. So looks like the percent has gone from 8.71 to 4.87. So we definitely increased the accuracy. If you saw on my rock video, I think we had an accuracy difference of about 6%. So adjusting the flight numbers definitely got us a little bit closer to reality. It was a lot of work, and at the end of the day, it still didn't get us really accurate data, because if you really start comparing each one of these throws and then look at the video comparing the two, at the end of the day, they're still not exactly the same. So we didn't quite accomplish our goal of getting it to be perfect. But I think adjusting these flight numbers definitely got us a little bit closer to reality using our TechDisc. And now I have flight numbers to use every single time I go into the simulator and I want to throw a destroyer. I know exactly what my TechDisc is set up like and what numbers I should have in that simulator. So that's our video for today. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll keep these videos coming. Thanks.